Welcome to the Thesilentscript, the podcast where we explore the stories that hide in plain sight, the experiences that seem ordinary on the surface, but reveal something far more complicated when viewed through a different lens. Today, we're examining a love story that almost never happened. Not because two people didn't exist, but because life had to teach them first. Sometimes the greatest love stories don't begin with chemistry. Sometimes they begin with character.
That's interesting. We spend so much of our lives asking who is the right person. Maybe we should be asking what experiences create the right person. Because love isn't only about finding someone. Sometimes it's about becoming someone.
Oh, wow, that's deep. We often think life is delaying us, but what if life is developing us? What if every disappointment is quietly teaching us something we couldn't learn any other way? Maybe healing isn't a detour. Maybe it's part of the journey to love.
Imagine two strangers. Different lives, different stories, different heartbreaks. One learned that love without honesty eventually falls apart. The other discovered that giving everything to someone who doesn't value it leaves you empty. Neither one was looking for another relationship. Neither one was searching. Both were simply trying to become whole again. Then life introduced them. Some people would call it coincidence, others would call it fate. Maybe it was simply the moment two healed paths finally crossed. Right person, right time.
And here's what stood out to me. It wasn't attraction that made them stay. It was kindness, the kind that doesn't keep score, the kind that listens before speaking, the kind that remembers the little things, the kind that makes another person feel emotionally safe. Kindness became the language they were both fluent in. Eventually, kindness became the reason they kept choosing each other.
Interesting. We don't talk enough about kindness. People chase excitement, mystery, the chase. But very few people realize kindness is one of the strongest forms of emotional intelligence. It's choosing compassion when criticism would be easier, patience when frustration would be justified, understanding before assumption. Maybe kindness isn't soft. Maybe it's one of the strongest things a person can offer.
I didn't think about that. Maybe that's why healthy love can seem so unfamiliar. We've become so used to confusing intensity with intimacy that peace almost feels suspicious. Have you noticed that? Sometimes people question the healthiest relationships simply because there's no chaos.
That's a powerful thought. If someone has only experienced storms, a calm relationship can feel uncomfortable. Not because something is wrong, because it's unfamiliar. Sometimes peace is mistaken for boredom. Sometimes consistency is mistaken for a lack of passion. But what if consistency is one of the purest expressions of love?
Oh, wow, that's something to sit with, because consistency quietly says, I'll be here. Not only when life is exciting, not only when everything is easy, but when life becomes ordinary. Maybe that's where love actually lives. Not in the extraordinary moments, but in the ordinary ones we continue choosing.
Here's something I've been thinking about. Do people fall in love, or do they fall into recognition? Maybe they weren't completing each other. Maybe they were recognizing someone who had learned the same lessons. They mirrored each other, not through perfection, through empathy. When one felt uncertain, the other responded with reassurance. When one was afraid, the other answered with patience. When one carried old wounds, the other never used those wounds as weapons. That's rare.
That's incredibly rare, because love isn't just seeing someone's strengths. It's protecting their vulnerabilities. That's a completely different level of connection. Maybe that's what people mean when they say it felt like our souls already knew each other. Not because they had met before, but because kindness felt familiar, respect felt familiar, safety felt familiar.
Interesting. People around them question the relationship. It can't be that good. Someone has to be pretending. It won't last. Maybe those opinions said more about the observers than the relationship itself. Sometimes people struggle to believe in love they've never witnessed.
That's deep. Maybe people don't reject love. Maybe they reject the possibility that love could actually be healthy. Because healthy love asks us to rethink everything we believed relationships had to be. No games, no manipulation, no wondering where you stand. Just honesty, respect, grace, and two people continuing to choose each other.
Notice something. Neither person rescued the other. Healing wasn't their job. They simply created a space where healing could continue. There's a difference. Love shouldn't replace your growth. It should support it.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. Maybe that's why this relationship lasted. Neither one expected perfection, they expected partnership. When one became tired, the other offered strength. When one doubted, the other offered hope. Not because they had all the answers, but because kindness had become the culture of their relationship.
And maybe that's the silent script. Love isn't proven by grand gestures. It's revealed in repeated choices. Every conversation, every apology, every act of patience, every moment someone chooses understanding over ego. That's where love quietly grows.
If you're listening today, maybe you've experienced heartbreak. Maybe you've questioned why certain relationships had to end. What if those endings weren't simply losses? What if they were lessons? Not lessons to make you fearful, but lessons to help you recognize the love that finally arrives with peace instead of confusion. Because true love often shows up after experience has taught us the difference between being wanted and being valued, between being pursued and being chosen, between being loved and being loved well. Thank you for joining us on The Silent Script. Remember, the deepest love stories rarely begin with perfection. They begin with growth. They continue with kindness, and they endure because even after every lesson life has taught them, two people keep making the same quiet decision. Today, I choose you again. We'll see you next time, where we'll continue looking beyond the obvious to uncover the stories that quietly shape our lives.